Hello everyone, welcome to Full Moon Movies. Since young, I have found memories of watching Hong Kong movies, and one of it is The City of Fire, which throws us straight into the restless streets of Hong Kong, where Chow Yun-fat's Ko Chow, an undercover cop, finds himself trapped between duty and identity. Now, what makes him compelling is not just his charm and humor, but the wariness that seeps into every choice he makes. The film places him along Danny Lee's Fu, a charismatic gang leader whose loyalty to his crew becomes the mirror image of Ko Chow's reluctant betrayal. Now, this isn't a simple cops and robbers tale, but it's a study in torn alliances where every smile, every shot fired carries the weight of a personal consequences. Now, for me, it's actually this movie is about seeing the old Hong Kong. Now, I guess you wouldn't be able to make another film like this and of Hong Kong in these scenes. Now that is what I love about all Hong Kong movies. The film has so much of richness, of characters and spaces and people that is really very difficult to find new films of this nature. Now, the heart of the film in this movie comes alive in the small moments between action. Chow Yun-fat smokes, laughs, and flirts with his girlfriend, and yet in his eyes there's a deep sadness, an unspoken fear of losing himself the longer he stays embedded. Danny Lee, often remembered for his work in The Killer, stands out here with a magnetic presence, turning his crime boss into someone both trustworthy and unpredictable. Their chemistry builds the emotional fuel that burns until the very last frame. Ringo Lam's direction has a rough, lived-in edge. Unlike the balletic shootouts of John Woo, Lam keeps his gunfights dirty, chaotic, and suffocating. The jewelry store heist and the final warehouse showdown feels less like choreographed set pieces and more like eruptions of desperation. Violence isn't celebrated here, but it's a grim punctuation that reminds us of what's at stake. Andrew Lau's cinematography paints Hong Kong as a claustrophobic urban jungle bathed in neon glow and thick with cigarette smoke. Every alleyway looks like it hides betrayal and every crowded bar hums with paranoia. The music adds to the tension without overpaying it, leading on atmosphere rather than grand flourishes. Silence often speaks louder than score, forcing you to sit in the unease that Lam carefully crafts. And when the bullets finally fly, the sound design carries a raw, unfiltered punch that makes you wince with every impact. The ending is devastatingly in its inevitability. Loyalty and betrayal collapse into one, and Ko Chow's fate lands with the kind of tragic weight that makes you realize why this film resonated so strongly with audiences and filmmakers worldwide. Tarantino would later channel its DNA in Reservoir Dogs, but Lam's original remains the more human and morally conflicted experience. Now, seeing City on Fire in this new 4K UHD release is a revelation. Shout Studios worked from the original camera negative, and the Dolby Vision HDR transfer makes Hong Kong nighttime neon bleed with life. Grain is intact and natural, blacks are deep without crushing the detail, and the textures, which are faces of glistering with sweat and grim of backyard alleys, the metallic coldness of guns, and sharper than ever. Now, this is not just a glossy cleanup, but it feels faithful to the gritty reality which Lam captured. The audio presented in DTS HD Dual Mono remains its raw punch. Dialogues in Cantonese carries clarity and nuance, while the English subs is there for nostalgia but hardly necessary. Now, the gunfire cracks with startling immediacy, and quieter exchanges hold the intimacy of widespread confessions. Collectors will find plenty of dig into with the supplements. Frank DeJong and FJ De Santo provide an engaging commentary that threads history, production, anecdotes, and critical insight. Interviews with writer Tommy Sham, critics like Grady Hendrix and Rick Myers, and historian Kim Newman flesh out the cultural impact and legacy of the film. Now, add to that trailers, image galleries, and thoughtful essays, and the package feels very definitive. For fans of Hong Kong cinema, this 4K release doesn't just polish a classic, it restores it to its throne it deserves. For newcomers, it's the perfect way to understand why Ringo Lam mattered, why Chow Yun-fat became a legend, and why this film continues to echo in crime thrillers decades later. On the surface, it gives you the basic viewing pleasure in HD clarity, but beneath, it captures the bruised heart of the 1980s Hong Kong cinema, raw, unflinching, and unforgettable. Now, this movie is a must-watch.